Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is JD, and today I'm going to tell you why Le Mans Ultimate matters so much to me and why I think it has so much potential. It's simple. It's because of its focus on multi-class racing. Honestly, those races create such a different dynamic that it really keeps the excitement going until the very end. It can be frustrating sometimes, I know. Other times it's going to play in your favor, but one thing is for sure is that you won't get bored. So if you have been on the fence about joining one of those races, or you have just recently unlocked your silver safety rating, well, stick around because I will be explaining what are the unwritten rules of multi-class racing, as well as give some beginner tips to help you get started on those races. And trust me, you certainly don't want to miss out on the fun. All right, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Okay, so the first thing I would tell you to be wary about is really when you're at the start in the slower cars, if you're in the LMGT3 cars and you're at the front of the GT3 cars, it's to be careful about turn one. Obviously, it is always the case in any kind of race, but even more so in multi classes because the faster car in front of you, like the LMP2 or the hypercars, they don't have as much assist. And if tires are cold, T1 is quite complicated. So there's a high chance of having some of those faster cars spinning, struggling to take the corner properly, and it's very possible that the GT3 cars, the guys in front, will get very close to those faster cars. So you really have to be careful and try to anticipate any errors they might be making to avoid causing a crash at turn one. Now, if we look more in details about the rules or the unwritten rules, or some of those rules can be written from the WEC and FIA. When you're in a slower car, it is your responsibility to keep the racing line. This is how you're going to be as predictable as possible for the faster car behind you. So you really want to make sure you try and keep that racing line. Um, don't try to change trajectory at the last second because you saw them coming behind you, or don't try to change your speed in any other way that you would normally do because that is going to increase the chance of a crash happening. You need to be as predictable as possible for them to know exactly when to overtake you safely. You want to be aware of your surrounding, obviously, and you want to try to anticipate some of the impatient drivers that may be coming behind you. If you see that the guys coming behind are fighting, they're like P1, P2, and they're very close, you should anticipate them to be quite aggressive on trying to overtake you without losing too much time, right? So when that happens, try to predict that and anticipate them being very aggressive and maybe leave a little more room. But you should still try to keep your racing line as much as possible. It is their responsibility to try and overtake you safely. Now, when you see a blue flag, you need to understand that blue flags in WEC don't necessarily mean that you need to move out of the way. What they mean is they are there to advise you that a faster car is coming behind you. So it's not to tell you to get out of the way. It's just to make sure that you're aware that faster cars are coming and that you should be aware of your surroundings to make sure that everything stays very safe, right? Now, on the other hand, if you are in a fast car like an LMP2 on a hypercar, well, the rules are kind of like the other way around, right? You need to be patient You need to be able to give slower cars room and time to react. You want to be announcing your intentions. You can flash your lights to make sure that the slower car sees you coming and that they are aware of your presence. Um, but then you need to be focusing on doing a safe overtake. The way to do this is to really focus on your exit speed and to make sure to prioritize overtaking in a straight. You don't want to be diving in a corner when the slower car might still try to take their racing line, because this is increasing drastically the chances of causing a crash. You want to be predictable as well. You want to avoid all those dive bombs, and avoid cutting right in at the braking zone on the side of a LMGT3. Now, there's also some tips and tricks that I could provide you that will help you perform better in your multi-class races, because based on the fact that they are usually longer in duration, they usually have more tire wear, they have pit stops that you have to do, so all of these things, knowing how to take into consideration those things will help you perform better in those types of races. So the first thing I would tell you is to try to nurture your tire all the way throughout the race. Um, Meaning that, if your tire wear is not too important by the end of the race, you will have a better performance there. The other thing too, or the thing to help you make sure that you take care of your tires, is to not set your um, traction control too low. I know that in other videos I've been highlighting the fact that you can bring your tire, traction control lower to gain some speed. But in some of those races, it might not be ideal to actually bring that traction control super low, because you're going to have more tire wear, especially your rear tires, if your wheels are spinning more, right? So you want to try to be mindful of that and find a TC setting that is more midpoint, right? It still allows you to be fast, but it doesn't cause too much wear on your tires. The other thing that I would tell you to be mindful of is your tire temperature. As you get further and further in the race and you accumulate the laps, the tire temperature might be going up quite drastically. And you want to keep an eye on this, because if your tire temperatures goes upwards of the 80s, like close to 90s, or even 90s, over 90 degrees Celsius, then you're definitely going to lose performance. And most of the time, when people feel like they are getting much slower towards the end of the race, is probably because they have overheating tires in the front and things like that, so that they see more understeer in their car and things like that. So try to nurture your tire. Don't break last minute and really, really put too much pressure on them, raising the temperature so much. Try to be as smooth as you can with your racing. This is going to really help you keep the temperature in a optimal window, right? So yeah, so that's the other tip I would have to give you when it comes to your tires. Now, one of the last tip that I would give you is to make sure that you plan your pit properly. When you have a couple of laps left before pitting, it's going to be time to navigate to your
Lap
pit stop strategy in your MFD, where
157.76.
you're going to adjust the percentage of energy needed to complete your second stint. You will also try to make sure that this number makes sense based on what is left. If the number you see at the top right is zero point 0.6 or more, you may want to add a little more just to make sure that you have enough if an additional lap is added based on the pace of the leaders. Another thing you're going to want to do in your MFD is remove any damage repair if you have a little bit of damage, but they are not really slowing you down.
We think will be in
And
P12, right
lastly,
behind Akka.
during the practice
You can see
session,
Coleman
you're going to
has started
try
it.
to
Sector 1 is
practice your
green.
pit entry.
Ross
You're
ahead
going to
is
go,
pitting.
do one lap, and then come to the pit.
Ross
Find the right
is leading the
braking
race.
marker so that you can come in
Redman
with as
behind is
much
pitting
speed as
now.
possible, but being able to brake on time for being at 60 kilometers per hour at the pit entry. That's about it for me. That's about the tips and tricks and the rules that I wanted to talk about. Multi-class racing is a ton of fun. It really is the ultimate challenge in racing, and I'm so glad that they have this really well fleshed out in LMU, and that they are planning on expanding on that with team-based endurance racing. And I will be looking at trying to run more of those races in the future, and I'll be looking out for teammates. So if you're interested in reaching out to me to maybe make a team or just to race together as a community, I would be happy for that. So please feel free to reach out to me. And if not, and you're just here to, you know, try and learn and grow as a sim racer, that's fine too. I appreciate all of you guys. Just remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you once again in the next video. Thank you so much. Until next time, ciao.